Okay, what's up, guys? We're here with Polo, who has just recently come off a third place victory at the GOAT Format Grand Prix held in Seattle last weekend. He was playing a really spicy Reasoning Gate deck, which, as you guys probably know, is like one of my favorite decks of all time. So, super excited to hear more about the list and how your experience was, Polo, last week. But before we get into that, do you want to kind of just introduce yourself and maybe explain your history playing Yu-Gi-Oh and your experience with GOAT format and other Time Wizard or retro formats?
Yeah. I'm Paulo Hernandez. I've been playing, well, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! 2005.
Oh, me
So I was
too.
playing,
OG. Yeah, me too.
I mean, when GOAT format was the current format, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I played for 2005 until 2010. So almost
Did
like,
you play competitively back then?
no, I mean, no, I only play at locals or, yeah, I mean, I didn't have, I didn't have money to get
Yeah, same.
the best cards in the games that were needed to play. So yeah, but that's the reason. I mean, with the time when during the pandemic, right? I was like at home, not doing anything. So I was like, oh, I check out that Dueling Book existed, right? So I was very interested in. I wasn't interested in an advanced format because I was like, ah, this doesn't look so good. I mean, for me.
Yeah.
So I saw that there was like this Goat format. So I was, oh, that's the format that I know. I mean, it's when I play during that time. So I start playing, and yeah, I mean,
Did
I
you
also
still
play
have your
with
cards from
Yep.
back then? Did you still have any of your?
Yeah,
Oh, nice. That's
yeah.
awesome.
I have some, and as a matter of fact, I continue. Well, during the Goat Prix event, I play with some of the cards like the Noblemans, the Solemn Judgments. They are very. I've been playing. I mean, I have them like almost 20 years, so they are very special to me.
Very cool.
So yeah, and also, I mean, I since that I've been playing like retro formats. I mean, I play Goat, I play Edison, and because basically that's the cards that I like. I mean, that I play during that time. So yeah, I'm not interested in playing advanced, not at all. I mean, I just retro formats. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what was I gonna say? Have you played in an event of this size before for Goat format, or is this one of your first times, or you play on online events at all?
Mhm. I have never played, I mean, an online event, right? I play sometimes in the ladder at Dwelling Book, and uh, this is the second event that I played like this big. I played in the past, I mean, as like I don't know, like 20 years ago, I played some events like they were big, but I mean, I haven't played like this big for a long time, so you could
Wow.
say it was not my first time, but almost.
Sure. One of your first times in recent history, and you got third place. That's very impressive. And with this deck too, um, super cool. Yeah. Let's see. Let me pull up my some of my notes here. One thing I wanted to ask you. So, actually, how long have you been playing Reasoning Gate? What's your experience with Reasoning Gate? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing it for I think like 2 years now, and I've been testing different decks, right? I this deck, I mean, this list that I used during the event was the one that I used in a side event here in Seattle. I won that side event, so I was like, I think I can. This is a good. I mean, I know it's very volatile. Sometimes you can get really good hands. Sometimes you can get really bad hands, and you lose, and that's what ended up happening on the semifinals.
Got
Uh, but it's really fun to play it. I mean, I really like it. It's like a very. I mean, if you have the correct cards, you can. It's very fast. You can OTK your opponent, and yeah. And also, I mean, for the how I play this, I try not to. I mean, because with the list that I use, it's not like sometimes you don't OTK so often as it is not as fast as other Resident Gate, but you have more defense. You can endure more to get or also you can attack attack your opponent and more like a word that being more aggressive and like an aggressive that you can. I think that's the reason I play like
it.
this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite deck of all time. It's one of the few GOAT format decks that like it doesn't feel like a 2005 GOAT format deck because the ceiling is just
Yeah,
very high,
yeah,
right? Like being able to have a board full of five monsters, chaos monsters, BLS, DMOC. It's one of those GOAT decks that's
yes,
like it's ahead of its time, which is super
yeah.
cool. And just looking at your list here, I really like it because it seems like we have a similar play style. I also play Sinister Serpent. I play it as kind of a more mid-range deck that can explode when it has the combo. I see you're playing like Mirror Force and Torrential and Ring and Wind Blast and like Air Knight to get the advantage. So it seems like you kind of have a little bit more of that mid-range style, but it can combo off and explode
Yes,
when you have the pieces, right?
yes, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. Like as you said, you have like you can be aggressive, but you can also get the explosiveness of Reasoning Gate. As a matter of fact, during the tournament, I OTK my opponents. I think three opponents. I OTK them. So yeah, I think it's yeah, it still has the explosiveness of Reasoning Gate.
Before we get into the actual list, because I have so many questions both about the main deck and the side deck, can you say maybe some common misconceptions that you think people have about the deck? I think a lot of people who have never played Reasoning Gate deck, it gets a really bad reputation or bad rap because it feels very high roll, very sacky, very RNG and random. And I think people who don't play the deck like don't give it enough credit for how difficult it is to play it, right? Because you have to know when to hold off, when to pop off, when to use your combo pieces, how much you're willing to risk holding off your reasoning gates and your reasonings and your monster gates, right? So, and there's also a lot of different lines in the deck. Any version of it that plays Metamorphosis, like there's so many different lines you can go for, especially when you start to you loop the DMOC with the Metamorphosis and the Dimension Fusion and all that. So, do you have any like misconceptions that you think people have about the deck?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that some people believe that this is just like a lucky deck, right? And
Right.
it's true. I mean, in sometimes you can get like very strong hand that your opponent can't do anything. I mean, you will win. There is nothing he or she can do. But uh, but I think it's a hard deck to play, in my opinion, because you have to keep always in mind which cards do I have in my deck. I mean, which monsters can I still get from Reasoning? I mean, I've seen some players that use Reasoning and oh, I didn't have any monster. I was oh come on.
Yeah, yeah. Like
I mean, you will yeah
a good reasoning gate player, especially as you start to mill more in your deck, you'll know the exact cards left in your deck.
exactly
You'll know every spell, every
exactly
monster left in your deck, and you'll have like a game plan for if you hit the wrong monster. What's your backup plan, right? Stuff like that. So there's actually a lot to keep track of. I feel like people kind of
yes
don't give it credit for that for
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, you have to keep in mind which monsters and spells. I mean, if the Demok is still on the deck, or if it's in the your graveyard or it's in your hand, that will change the game plan. So yeah, I mean, usually for you OTK you need to have Demok. Right? I mean, there is like the only well, not the only way, but the main way to win. So to OTK, sorry. So yeah,
Hmm.
just sometimes that changes the game style. Or also if you want to be aggressive, if you want to wait more. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's not so easy to play this deck. Talking about Resoning Gate, but in my opinion, it's a very fun deck to play. I mean, the
I agree.
speed. I think, and not many decks give you that opportunity to OTK often your opponents, right? I
Definitely.
mean,
Definitely. Okay, let's get into the list. I'm already super excited about this. So, I mean, the first thing I'm looking at is the Sinister Serpent because I love I love Sinister Serpent. I've been like preaching using Sinister Serpent in a Reasoning Gate deck for a long time. I've been doing it for years. I think people they see it and they're like, "Why the fuck are you playing Sinister Serpent?" Right? Hitting it off a Monster
yes,
Gate is so bad. It's like a waste of a turn. It's like neg. And I think it depends on your play style a little bit, right? If you're going
right.
for the pure glass cannon OTK, then including the serpent is going to slow down your milling and your combo, and maybe
That's
it's bad.
correct.
But since you're taking this more mid range, a little bit more grindy approach, having that resource coming back. Sorry, I'm gonna shut. I'm gonna shut up and let you explain it. But yeah, I'm super curious to hear your thoughts about Sinister Serpent. Sorry, just ranting on my end.
Yeah, what you are saying is correct. I mean, if you are only thinking OTK the opponent, yeah, Sinister Serpent is not a good choice. right? Because when you use reasoning, it can. No one is going to say one. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
but but I mean, if you end up getting the serpents from reasoning or monster gate, you could say, oh, but it's a resource that you can continue using in future turns. Like it's food for monster gate, it's food for metamorphosis, it's food for monster reincarnation, for for graceful. It's a defense against delinquent duo.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
it's a wall. I mean, it's a one monster wall when
Yes.
you are waiting. I mean, it has very uses. I mean, I have played many decks, and I mean, I have played with or without Sinister Serpent, and I found that even if it has like its drawbacks, I mean, like because it can stop you from one turn from winning. I have seen more advantage to having it that don't have it. As a
Honest,
matter of fact, during the yes,
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
yeah, during the tournament I many times I play with serpent, and it was I mean it gave me resources to graceful, it gave me resources to metamorphosis. I mean I don't think it was for card destruction. It's also a card to get and yeah, I mean I think it was a very good card. I mean it was a good choice during the tournament.
Yeah, honestly, I could make a whole video just talking about Sinister Serpent. I think so. I'm already looking at the rest of your list too. I see three Chaos Sorcerers. Some decks only play two if you're
Hmm.
going for the faster OTK deck. But like we've said, it seems like you're trying to, play the game over multiple turns, maybe more than one push, right? A couple pushes in the
Hmm.
game. And that's where Sinister
Yes,
Serpent
exactly.
really shines, like you're saying, because you're gonna get that resource back every single turn. Use Monster Gate one turn, get something out, Air Knight, get some advantage.
Yes.
Next turn, you use another Monster Gate, so it's like it really starts to build up over time. And
Yes.
also to your point, same. I've had multiple games where my opponent will make Last Warrior first turn against me, and I'll just set Sinister Serpent every turn. And I played in a tournament in Vegas for YCS Vegas earlier this year. They made Last Warrior first turn. I stalled like 5 turns, 4 or 5 turns with just Serpent, keep setting it, setting it, setting until I finally drew the Snatch Steal or the Brain Controller or whatever. And also against Warriors too, because like usually they don't want to commit 3 warriors to the board because then they could run into Torrential or Mirror Force or Lightning Vortex. So if you could, usually they'll only put like 2 maybe max, unless they have like Judgment and stuff like that. But if you can just block one of those 2,000 attack points or whatever it is, then it makes a big deal. And then what's
Yes.
my last thought is, oh, my last thought is, um like you said, no one's going to call one off reasoning. So it's better than them calling reasoning correctly most of the times, right? If you use it to get Sinister Serpent. I think the only time where it's really bad having Sinister Serpent is when you use Monster Gate and the Serpent was the card in the deck right before Demok. Because then right? It blocks you from
Yes.
hitting the. That's the only time where it's like, oh, it really messed me up. But I think the other times, like you could figure out how to convert it, like you said, with the meta, with the tribute monsters, and yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
O-
As you mentioned, reasoning you get the sinister, and you can also use it as a tribute for Jimso or for
Right.
Arnai Parshat, so or for Timok if you have it in hand. And I mean it's a less one tribute more for Timok. So yeah,
Gotcha. Sorry, I'm talking so much. I want to get more into your list. Okay, next thing I see is I see Air Knight. I feel like Air Knight is kind of it used to be in favor and kind of a little bit of old technology, but in recent history, because of the Gravekeeper spies, it's like less popular. How was it for you in the tournament? How did you like playing Air Knight?
yeah. I mean I think I was a little disappointed of her night. I mean, as you said,
Hmm.
usually many players are playing spies, and it's as kind of old. So, I mean, I was probably thinking about no longer use her night and use the third, bird, right?
Yeah, yeah, Sacred Crane.
Crane,
Yeah.
yes, the
You
third
know,
Sacred Crane. So
it,
I was,
in my list, I used to play Air Knight years ago, but I switched to Zaborg actually in the last year or two. Something that you just might want to try out. It's kind of weird, but it's 2400, which is good against warriors and good against spy. And it's really nice when you hit your serpent and you can just tribute for Zaborg, or Demok and you tribute for Zaborg, clear their face down spy or Magician of Faith, and then get it back with Dimension Fusion. So have you tried Zaborg before at all?
No. As a matter of fact, the other day I was thinking, what other monster like? Because you need a light, you need an additional light for Chaos Sorcerer and BLS.
Uh-huh.
I was probably thinking about Saborg. I was in my mind, but I was more leaned to the Sacred Crane because at the end it's a monster that you don't need a tribute. It's food
True.
for Monster Gate, and yeah, but I probably I will give it a try. I mean, I want to, or I keep using. I mean, I still, I mean, I don't know. I still like using Parsha, even if it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be during tournament. But I think during one, it gave me the game one match, so yeah, probably not too bad.
The worst feeling is when your opponent snatch steals your Air Knight, and
Yeah, oh, yeah,
and all you have is goat tokens to protect yourself. That's the that's
yeah, yeah.
that's the worst.
That's it. No, and I have I mean plays that they take your I don't know Parsha, they hit you, they get one card, and then they use Metamorphosis, and yeah, and
Oh my
they
God,
get
yeah, and then you get the Balter. Oh,
the Val.
that's the worst. That
Yeah,
is literally
yeah,
okay.
that's the worst. Yeah, yeah.
That's like the god play against Reasoning Gate. One more other plug for Zaborg is that the 2400 attack I think is very important because you're playing Fusilier, which is 28, and DMOC is 28, and 28, 28, 24 is 8,000 exactly. So that's another reason I like the Zaborg, just for the exact 8,000. Um, but okay, moving on to the list. I see three Metamorphosis. How did you like three? Was it ever bricky? Did you ever clog? Was it ever too much? Can you talk about that?
I mean, yeah, I think I mean, during the semifinals, the game that I lost, I was like, I had my two. That's the only. I mean, during all that day, I mean, I had very good hands in general, playable hands. But during the semifinal, I was completely bricked. I had like I was like, oh, I hate this. The metamorphosis. I had like two metamorphoses and nothing to use to use them. So I was like, I think that's the only game that they was. I mean, I didn't have use for them. But
Hmm.
in general, I think they behave correctly because, as I mentioned, I have the Sinister Serpent, and it's food for the Metamorphosis. So it's always, I mean, almost all the time it's playable. I mean, and usually for the Thousand Eyes Restrict, which is a wall. I mean, it's also a wall
Yeah.
to yeah. So you have food for Chaos Sorcerers for BLS, and also it's a wall to resist more turns, and also you can attack. I mean, I usually when I get the Thousand Eye Restrict, I attack, because every attack that they receive and they lose life points, it's a more potential to OTK them in the next turn, or I mean, yeah,
And if they
that's the
get
reason I still. Mhm.
and if they get rid of it, then you have a Dark in the Grave, like you were saying, for the Chaos
Yeah.
monsters. I see. Okay.
Yeah, and also metamorphosis can be used with the Fusilier Dragon. I mean, to get the
True.
King Dragoon, which is a very good card against Chaos Turbo. Usually, to get rid of King Dragoon, they need to use the Mirror Force or the Torrential,
Yeah.
because even Chaos Sorcerer doesn't do anything to King Dragoon. So
Yeah, I think they literally have maybe four outs. They have Torrential, Mirror Force, Tribe Infecting Virus, and BLS
I mean,
if they run over it.
BLS.
Yeah, yeah.
And for BLS, they need to attack you because they cannot use
Yes. Yeah,
if
true.
you have a defense. Yeah, yeah. So I'm also yeah. Usually I use another usage of metamorphosis is to use it for Chaos Sorcerer to get the
Yeah.
what's the name of this card?
Ryu
The
Senshi?
uh, no, Gatling Dragon. I mean,
Oh,
sorry, not for the Demo.
oh,
I
yes, yes,
mean,
for sure, for sure.
for the OTK. I mean, you usually I had this hand. I mean, this is a very common play that I have. You have dimension fusion. You have metamorphosis, and Dimok is banished, right?
Hmm.
So you can get like you use metamorphosis. Dimok is banished, and then you use dimension fusion to return your Dimok, and then you have two big monsters to attack. And even I had a game that I felt like I was playing. I don't know. I had like two metamorphosis and one dimension fusion,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I had two Gatling
Like,
Dragon
yeah, yeah.
and one Dimok, and it was exactly the 8,000 for the game. Yeah,
Yeah, when you could do the DMOC loop, it feels like you're not playing Go
yeah,
format.
the Dimok loop.
It feels like you're
Yeah,
playing like
exactly.
mod. It's like you make Gatling Dragon, Dimension Fusion back, make another Gatling Dragon, Dimension Fusion back, add Pot of Greed back to your hand, and it's like it feels like you're not playing Go format.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Sheffield are not playing that format. You don't see that playing any other deck. Oh, well, for the format, yeah.
Right, but I agree that in this kind of build, Metamorphosis has so many different purposes. You can, turn your Crane into the Darkfire Dragon to get the light in the
Yeah, true.
graveyard. You can make, any level you want, like you said, King Dragoon, Last Warrior with the Fusilier, or you could make the 5 into Balter. Um, Another very common play is like you use Chaos Sorcerer, banish their card, and then metamorphosis it into like Ryu
Ryu Senshi.
Senshi, so you can attack with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's so useful in this deck. But
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah, let's keep moving on. Okay, card destruction. I've tried this out many times. How did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, card destruction is a very good card. It also gives you the opportunity to, for instance, if you have Dimok in your hand, send it to the graveyard
True.
to use for Premature, for Call of the Haunted, for Rebanish for then use Dimension Fusion. Um, as a matter of fact, I think the top 8 game I won with card destruction. I sent, I mean, I was card destruction, yeah, and I sent my Light and Darkness, then Dimension Fusion, attack for game. So yeah, so I think it helps you with this, and also as I mentioned, that's the reason Sinister Serpent is there. It's food for card destruction. So yeah, for Jinso also. I mean, if you want to send it to the graveyard and then revive it with card haunted,
True.
I think it has many plays. And I try to keep card destruction until I have like monsters. I mean, usually I don't use it if I have only spells or
Right.
trap. I need to have like something that needs to be sent to the graveyard, like a Dimok.
hmm
Yeah,
I kind of
I think it was a very good card.
I kind of wish I played it in the tournament because out of all my runs with Reasoning Gate, this tournament I opened up DMOC in the opening hand so many times. It felt like it was like 30% of the time I just kept opening DMOC. So if I had card destruction, that would have helped me a lot for sure. But yeah, very cool. Um, okay, I think the elephant in the room. Everything else looks pretty standard except your trap lineup. Okay. Um, Actually, I've seen Ring and Torrential in the main deck for sure. I've seen some builds playing those in the main deck. I think I go back and forth with Ring because you're doing damage to yourself, which makes it harder to use Dimension Fusion. Did you have any awkward moments where using Ring hurt you or it wasn't good to have Ring in the main deck?
Oh, I think it was good to have Ring in the main. But I mean, because sometimes you don't have enough to OTK your opponent, but Ring is an additional way to do damage. I think I won a game with Ring of Destruction. So I think it was I mean, I like it how it was like how it behaved during the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I really.
Okay.
I didn't think it didn't backfire as much as I didn't backfire. Yeah.
Maybe I'll try it out in the main deck again. The other one is obviously this discard spell, Phoenix Wing Windblast. I used to play Raigeki Break in mine, and I assume the main idea is you're making use of the Sinister Serpent, right? You get it back in the standby
Yes.
phase, you discard it and get it back again. Um, so I actually have been wanting to put back Raigeki Break, or maybe I'll try Windblast now that you've shown me this, back in the deck. Also, just to get the Demock out of the hand. Sometimes it's stuck there, or you have the Light in the Dark. You need to get in the grave for the
Mhm.
Chaos. So, can you talk about how this performed, and also why you chose this over Raigeki Break?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, during the tournament, I think Phoenix Wing Wind Blast was not a good card.
Oh,
I mean, in other tournaments, it was a really good card. So during this time, I think I don't remember any game that it was an advantage to use Phoenix Wing Wind Blast.
mm,
Uh, but I prefer it over Raigeki Break because you can usually I because I want to sometimes try to do the OTK. It's a good way to send the monster to the top of the deck, and also it's a way to speed the opponent down, right?
yeah.
So they have one less turn. So yeah, I think that's the reason I prefer it. I mean, basically just that I have never used in any Resident Gate deck that I have used. I have never used a Heki Break. I usually use them for Chaos Turbo. I prefer them for Chaos Turbo, but for Resident Gate, I prefer keeping the Phoenix Winged Blast.
I think usually the argument is that Raigeki Break it's bad. It's worse against Chaos Turbo because you're putting their monster in the grave, a light or dark, right? And
Mhm.
If it's a Sangan, that sucks too.
Yeah,
Cause
it's a Sangen.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that really sucks.
But it's
Uh,
better against things like Snatch Steal because you don't want them to just top deck the Snatch Steal again with the Wind Blast.
yeah,
Did that situation ever come? I think that's the only one
yeah,
where it's like maybe they drop BLS or Snatch Steal and like you put it back on top of your deck and it's like okay, I just like delay it for one turn, you know? Did that ever come
yeah,
up?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, during the tournament, I lost two matches, right? One, the two matches that I lost were against the first and second place, and against the one that was using Resonant Gate. I summoned the last warrior from another planet, and summoning the last warrior from another planet against a Resonant Gate player is, I mean, usually you win. They don't have a
Oh no.
so and
Oh.
yeah, and he used against me Snatch Steel, and I only had Phoenix Wing Blast, and I was like, oh,
No.
I have to
Exactly.
I have
Oh.
to kill my. Yeah.
No.
I mean, if that was a recent Reiki break, right? I could have destroyed his Snatch
Oh,
Steel,
so
and
you had to
probably I
Wind
have,
Blast
yeah.
your own last warrior, is what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
because I did, as you mentioned, if I use Phoenix Wing Blast against their Snatch Steel, it was the
there.
same. I mean, it was just delaying one turn, and he was going. Yeah, so he was
S-
going to do against Snatch Steel. So yeah,
So I'm really
that
glad
was
you.
a very horrible.
That's so terrible. I'm really glad you brought this
Yeah,
up
that's
though, because actually in this tournament, one of my friends, I got him to play Reasoning Gate, and I've been saying this for so long, like making Last Warrior when you're playing the mirror match and you make Last Warrior against your opponent first turn, it's the worst karma. It's like really,
yes.
really bad karma. Every time I've done it, I lose, and every time my opponent does it, I win. back at the back at the tournament in Vegas, he did it first turn to me, and then I stalled with Sinister Serpent like 3, 4, 5 turns, and then I got Stash Steal, and then I just won. And then this tournament, my friend who I taught Reasoning Gate to, he made it against me first turn. I was like, dude, that's a mistake. It's always a mistake. And then I had the Snatch Steal, and I just won. So it's like it's only good if you have like an answer to it being stolen. Like you have MST for the Snatch Steal, or you have the Mirror Force to out it, right? But I tell every reasoning gate player it's like so tempting to make it first turn, but never do it. It never. Okay, and then another time in that Vegas tournament, I made it first turn, and my opponent he had every card the set in his whole deck. He set two Cranes, he set Fusilier, he set like Cyberstein, and like I couldn't summon any more monsters, so he's just blocking it all. And then eventually he drew the out. So it's just very risky to make it first turn, as you know, right? It's it's crazy how often that happens. Okay, so the only card left in your main deck I want to ask about is Mystical Space Typhoon because I don't often see that in the main deck. Can you talk about that one a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, because I was between using Mystical Space Typhoon or using Giant Tornado, right?
Yeah, True Nade is a very
So,
common card to have in this deck, but yeah,
yeah. But because it's not like I mean, because I'm not committed entirely to doing the OTK, right? So Mystical Space Typhoon is a good card. It's a good answer to Snatch Steel. It's also a way to clear the back row. I mean, it's not as explosive as Iron Tornado, but still you can continue doing the attacks. You can continue be aggressive every turn. So yeah, I prefer using. I have used another build that was using, I think, two Giant Tornado. I end up keeping the Mystical Space Typhoon. Yeah, I think
interesting.
it behaves correctly. Yeah, I really like how it worked during the tournament.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it out. In my build, since I'm playing a similar strategy to you, similar game style, play style, I only use one True Nade because I don't want to brick. When I play two, when I play three, it's just you're just bricking on these True Nades, and it's a neg 1, right?
Yes.
It's only good if you go for the OTK. So maybe I'll try the MST. I would just really miss the True Nade Call of the Haunted and True Nade Premature Burial plays because
Pretty much, yeah.
like True Nade into Call the Haunted into Jinzo is like it's like one of the craziest plays, especially if you could bait out your opponent's like Raigeki break and you chain the Call of the Haunted. But okay, very cool. Let's go on to the side deck because this is what we're really here for. My friend told me about he played against you, and he told me he played you game one. He's like, yeah, he's playing Reasoning Gate, but then game two, suddenly I'm playing against like Chaos Turbo or Chaos Control. So why don't you explain the side deck strategy a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when testing the deck, I mean, well, not this deck, but when playing Resident Gate Turbo, I usually, many, in many occasions, I found that I won game one. I mean, I had a very explosive hand, I won, and even if I had an explosive hand in second game or third game, my opponent has decided to something to stop the deck. So, like for instance, Spell Canceller,
Yeah.
or I mean, many Kuribo or things like that that could potentially
Or
stop you.
King Tiger
So
as
I,
well.
King Tiger, yeah, it's another card that they usually side against you. So I was like, oh, I started to feel like I wasn't able to be able to work with this deck because I usually lost game two and three. So I was, what if I do this strategy? And I tested, and it worked really well. I mean, I was playing this deck in the ladder, and it gave me very good results. I was able to achieve the first place in the ladder.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I was like, oh, probably this deck. I mean, because as you mentioned, many players were confused, like, what happened here? Because usually they sided their cast for against Resident Gate, and and I sided and I used probably it's more linked to be a chaos control, a goat control, sorry. Uh, and they were like kind of confused because usually they side out their noblemans. They side out like they
Yeah.
were more cards, more aggressive cards like Sakuretsu or things like to stop you. And then you are more in a more defensive way. I mean, you are using the spies, Sang, and Koichis, and also another card that I mean that some people were like confused was Solemn Judgment because no player is going to play Solemn Judgment with Dimension Fusion, right? I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I mean, I side out the Dimension Fusion and I play Solemn Judgment, and no player was expecting that. I mean, I have many occasions that they use Solemn Judgment. Here's my Solemn Judgment as a response, and they were, oh, damn, because no one expected that. So,
That
I
is
mean, I mean, probably,
yeah, that feels pretty good. So I see like these cards down here, these 15 cards, these are the ones that you side out for these 15, right? When you do this,
yeah,
oh go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, that depends on the situation. I mean, usually those are the standard, but not all the times. I mean, for instance, for Warrior, I keep the Jinso. Sometimes, I mean, for Warriors, I don't side in the Noblemans. I keep the Monster Reincarnation. I mean, that depends on my situation. But one thing that I want to mention that is really important, it's all the time that I test this deck, I always lost against Born.
Burn,
And
really?
yeah,
Oh.
because I don't have, and that was the risky part.
Oh, because you're not playing
Uh,
True Nade. You're not playing any True Nades. It's harder to play if you don't have True Nades in the side or the main
yeah,
deck.
yeah. I mean, usually against a born deck, you side in your cards. I don't know, you side in
Mystic
Royal
Walk.
Decree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you don't have like those cards because you only have a space to have these cows, this goat control side. So usually I was like during the tournament I was like, please I don't play against any born player because I'm going to lose. I mean it's really hard. I mean it's really hard to play. I had to do many weird combination in order to side in against a born player. So that was the only thing that I was really happy that I didn't play against any during the tournament.
Yeah, neither did I. Didn't see any Burn, but it's interesting because I actually like the matchup against Burn because they
Mhm.
activate the tokens and you could just monster gate the tokens away. You don't really care about
Yeah.
those. And in my build, I'm playing True Nade in the main and also some True Nades in the sideboard. I have some, cards like Mystic Walk. So that makes sense because your sideboard sides you into kind of Chaos Control, Go Control, which is very bad against Burn because one, they could lock you out of a field. Like they could chain their trio to when you try to escape. They can get rid of a couple scapegoats, right? Like leave only two on the field and then activate Ojama Trio, and now they're blocking your whole field, right?
Yeah, you are completely
You're
blocked. Yeah.
completely blocked, and like the scapegoat tokens are so bad because Just Desserts does more damage. So like I totally get
for,
that.
for Panda.
Yeah, for Panda, yeah, Panda gets bigger. Their burn cards do more, and like the slower, like they want you to build up a hand and field, right? So they could do more damage to you. So the slower game is not the strategy against Burn. I think you have to go kind of fast against Burn and get the Jinzo as fast as
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that makes
The
sense.
Jinso.
Yeah, that makes sense that you were afraid. And Judgment isn't good against Burn either, because like you're burning yourself for 4,000, right? So yeah, that makes sense that you were afraid to see that deck. I guess what I wanted to ask you is the side strategy that you used against what deck did it feel really good? I'm guessing against.
You should.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
Yeah, against like I think against Chaos Turbo, it's a really good strategy. Usually they have many answers to Resoning Gate. Well, I have found that they usually have answers to it. So I mean, but not all the games I side in. I mean, I was like, this game I think it's okay to keep it as it is. So I only side in like I think the half of the matches of the I played. Six, they were 7 rounds, right?
Yeah,
I
7.
played 9 games. From the 9 games, I think I side in
Wait,
4 or 5.
in 7 rounds you only played 9 games? Dang.
Yeah, yes,
So that means you
yeah,
two. That means you 2-0'd like a lot of the rounds then, right?
all the games that I won, I won 2-0.
Wow. Okay. And in
Yeah,
those games where you won 2-0, was it a mixture of the side strategy or was it just yeah.
yeah. No, I think half of them where I use the strategy, and the other half I keep it as it is because I think my opponents didn't have an I didn't I think they didn't have an answer to Reasoning Gate because they were kind of confused.
I
Because
see.
when I use reasoning, I think they call, but usually they call eight. A person who has played against reasoning eight, usually they play eight. They call four. Like we were calling other random numbers. I was
Oh,
like, oh,
yeah.
probably they don't have experience with it.
Yeah,
So that's the
that's
reason I prefer to keep it. Yeah.
for sure. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's part of like I was interviewing some of the other people who did well at the tournament. And this kind of in-person tournament, it's the first Grand Prix in Seattle, right? It's
Yeah.
probably going to attract a lot of people who it's their first time playing GOAT format in real life or maybe GOAT format at all, right? Some of my friends, they play Edison and they just decide to come and have fun with GOAT format even though they haven't really
Yes.
ever played before. So I was getting a little bit of the same, some unfamiliarity with reasoning. So
Yes.
you're saying that if you could see that they were inexperienced, then you would just like keep it in because why change it, right?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That was a factor that that I had to take the advantage of it, right? Because yeah, as you mentioned, they were not familiar. As a matter of fact, I played against one player that he even didn't know the reasoning gate how it works. So it
Uh,
was kind of he was very confused. So I was like, okay, I think I need to keep this strategy for now. But for other players that I realized that they were calling the correct numbers or they were more familiar with it, I cited the goal control version, and it played well. I mean, I won those games as well.
fair.
At the same, I mean, the games that I lost them 2-0, so I didn't have, I didn't, so I go to the very extreme to the other one, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Do you ever side in the smoke screen and then side back out into Reason Gate? Like,
I didn't have, I didn't play in, I, no, no, I didn't play 3 games in any match.
oh, okay. But like when you play on ladder on Dueling Book, do you ever like go back and forth
Oh,
from the
yeah,
smoke screen?
yeah, 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 exactly. Sometimes I return to the original deck, and sometimes I keep it depending of how it behaved the deck. Yeah. So that I mean, it's not like automatic change. I mean, I had to take into consideration what the opponent did and all those situations. So usually it's like depending of what they side in, I decided to keep or change back, and yeah, I like it because it's kind of a mind game as well, right?
It
It's
is. It
like
is.
you don't know what's going to happen next, so yeah.
It is. It's so interesting because I think that the hardest deck for this is Warriors. I think it's just straight up the hardest deck to play against because they're summoning 2,000 beaters and they put you on like a 3 turn clock right off the bat, right? Like Blade Knight and one other card, they're attacking you for 3 4K each turn. And then they have the Kaiku, so you can't summon the Chaos Monster. And then they have the Judgment to stop the Dimension Fusion when you try to go. So that deck is very hard. And I imagine that that's one of the matchups that you side out the Dimension Fusion and some of the Chaos against and go into the smokescreen, right? Against Warriors.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, also, I mean, as you mentioned, a very good card that they play against President Gate is waiting their Solemn Judgment until you play a
It's so
winning card
hard.
like Dimension Fusion. Yeah, it's hard. So that was another reason I hide in Solemn Judgment because it's an answer to their Solemn Judgment.
Right, right.
So
It's
yeah,
interesting.
I really like how it's played.
It's
Hmm?
interesting. We've both have taken like different approaches to similar but different approaches to dealing with that that matchup because I also take out the Dimension Fusion package. I take out all the Dimension Fusions. I take out like
Yes.
two Chaos Sorcerers, Monster Reincarnation. I do a very similar thing, except instead I put in multiple brain controls because brain control is so
Um,
good against warriors. It's just like so good, especially when they have two monsters on the board. And then I put in Vampire Lord. I put I put in Vampire.
a Vampire Lord. That's a good choice.
Yeah, because you brain control their monster, attack them directly, and if they Sakuretsu the monster, it's like, okay, you just go +1, right? And if they let it go through, then in main phase 2, you tribute it for the Vampire Lord, and Vampire Lord, if they Solemn Judgment the Vampire Lord, it still comes back the next turn, right? And
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
it does, it does. And basically, their whole deck doesn't work against Vampire Lord. They can't Sakuretsu, they can't Mirror Force, they can't Ring, they can't Exiled. Um, so that's my strategy with that. And I put in Sakuretsus and Mirror Force, and basically just like try to simplify the state. But my Vampire Lord is immune to half of their deck. Basically, that's my. So we have similar approaches, just a little same but different. It would seem so. That's very cool to see this other approach to the deck.
Yeah,
Very
I mean,
cool.
I think yeah, it was like, I mean, in my opinion, it was really fun. This deck was really fun to play in the tournament. The previous night, I was like, oh, what should I play? Because I was between playing this deck or playing an standard Chaos Turbo. So I was like,
I
what
see,
should
but
I do? Because
everyone's gonna play Chaos Turbo, you know.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, let's have fun. I mean, I know that I could have very risky hands sometimes,
Yeah,
or probably, I mean, the strategy won't work against certain decks. So I was like, oh, okay, let's try it. Let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? And yeah, I think it did good. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was like, when I reached top eight, I was like, I think I can win. I think I can win if I keep these cans. But at the end, I mean, I was rigged. So
it's how it
yeah,
goes. It's how it goes with the deck.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's how it goes. Yeah, you win
sometimes you get
sometimes,
it.
you lose, and yeah, yeah. But in general, I like how, I mean, I really enjoy the tournament. I really enjoy playing this, which is my favorite deck in GOAT format. So yeah, it was really fun. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, huge congratulations for getting third place in like one of your first in paper Goat format large events. That's pretty awesome. Also playing the best Goat format deck in my opinion. Before we wrap up, do you have it? Do you have anyone you want to shout out? I mean, shout out to JDZ obviously for hosting the event and making sure everything ran smoothly. But anyone that you want to shout out, any by any chance? No
Yeah, as you
worries. But
mentioned today. Yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, it was a really great tournament. I mean, shout out to the people who organized this tournament. I mean, it was really good because usually don't you don't. I mean, I haven't seen much Go tournament for a while here in Seattle. So this was a very good opportunity to play in paper and in a big event. So that was the first thing, and the second thing, yeah, shout outs to my girlfriend. She's always supporting me. She's always like, ah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah, you continue play what you like, and that
I
was
love
really
that. I love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So that in general, it was a really good experience.
awesome. Well, congrats again on the run, and thanks for coming by the channel to do the interview. Appreciate it, Polo.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.